Well, welcome back, everyone. This is Canadian immigration lawyer Mark Holthe with another Canadian Immigration Live Q&A. Those of you who attended yesterday with my live Q&A, it was a great kind of restart to 2022. And this is number 2 of the Holthe Immigration Law / Canadian Immigration Institute live Q&As. And I am pleased to welcome in my guest, Alicia. How are you, Alicia?
Happy New Year, Mark. I'm doing well. I'm trying to stay warm.
That's awesome. I know that Alicia was informing me she's now officially entered the world of Mac. So she's acquired a Mac. So we're going to get her set up here so that my ugly mug won't even be on here very soon. She'll be able to run this on her own. Besides, you guys want to talk to her anyways more than you do want to talk to me. So this is great.
It's on
All
its
right.
way. It's ordered. It hasn't arrived yet, but I'm gonna have to figure out the world of Macs. So
Oh,
yeah, it's a brave new world.
yeah. Well, we like using Mac because of this ECM software that we use that allows me to pull on people like the Nutty Raspberry. That is so awesome. So hello to you. And we've got Divine is here. Hello, Divine. Good to have you connecting in. And Aisha is here. Lovely to see you as well, Aisha. And of course, Thesura. We have Thesura back, and he is a faithful follower. And Thesura, you are, I think, I'm just trying to remember at what stage. I think you're a permanent resident now, or you've got your COPR. It's, I know for a while there, you were wondering if it was going to come through. So welcome. All right. Well, since the live Q&A yesterday, I'll just flip over here to our other screen here. So since the live Q&A yesterday, we have seen what we expected, which was another PNP draw. So we've got that on January the 5th yesterday. It was a very small one. I guess people were taking holidays, Alicia, and weren't filing getting their EAPRs, their profiles in for the PNP. But once again, it was a PNP only draw. So what we're hoping is that maybe today, maybe a little bit later today, there may just be another CEC or even an open draw, which is possible. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. I know in past live streams, I was voting on January, and then I can't remember. What did you say that when the next
I
round
was
was going?
I was Valentine's Day. I was February
Oh,
14th.
she's going for
So
February. I'm still holding strong. I'm going to hold on. So the last CEC, as if we scroll through here, you can see was September the 14th. And then we go back all the way to December 23rd. Over a year ago was the last time we had a no program specified draw. So we'll see how that plays out. It's always fun to speculate, and we'll see how it all develops. All right, so you guys can start posting your questions now, and remember to put a Q in front of it, and then Alicia and I will know that it's a question, not just you guys talking back and forth, which you tend to do. Let's start here with Ben. He says, if I have multiple language test results within 2 years, do I have to use my latest one? What's your thoughts on
no,
that, Alicia?
you don't have to, but you do want to time it so that you're going to have validity of your test results by the time you get an ITA. So that's kind of the trick on that. You'll want to use the one with your best results, right? So your overall highest band profile that's going to give you the best CRS. But yeah, just keep an eye on what your expiry date on the actual date that you took the exam is.
And I guess you could extend it also to people that have ECAs. And we know that in some places, a master's degree in India, some of the educational credential assessment agencies don't always equate it to a master's degree. So Wes may equate it to a bachelor's, but then you go through IQAS and they equate it to a master's. And so you've got 2 ECAs on your hands. And the reality is you're fully entitled to rely upon the one that gives you the best results. And so even in those circumstances, I've had clients do that. Okay. Johnson & Johnson here. He says, hi, Mark, I applied for PR. I got the notes and it shows my criminality is in progress. It's been in process since December 2020. Why has it taken so long? I have a previous Canadian visa refusal. Is that why? Well, yeah, I can jump in on this one, Alicia, too. I just had a consult with a couple who had their acknowledgement of receipt in September. So they are also just sitting, waiting, no forward movement. And so I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form. I'm assuming, Johnson, that you're an outlander, that you're not in Canada, and you're just in the queue, just with everybody else. Alicia, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if there is a previous Canadian visa refusal, they're doing some more, background criminality checks, but it could just be that they're just processing and it's just normal processing time for them.
All right, Ayesha, thank you for the positive comment, saying you'll do a wonderful job and keep us so up to date. Excellent. Okay, Joseph says, I applied for Express Entry in Canada and my score is 449. Any chance of CC draws this month?
Well, Mark thinks so. I think it might be
Maybe.
another month or so, but
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe. And then the question becomes, will 449 be enough? And I'll be
Yeah.
honest, Joseph, with the way things have kind of unfolded, I would be surprised. Like I can't personally see a CEC draw dropping down to that level. And I'll explain to you why. So you might have to wait a little bit. So if we go to the rounds of invitations and we look at this and we go back to see the last CEC only draw, you can see it was 462. So, and that 462 arose because there was almost a full month between the last draw, which was 403. And then in 1 month alone, it jumped all the way up. It went from August 19th to September the 14th. It jumped all the way up to 462. And now you can see the months that have passed with and the high demand. I would not be surprised if we were, if we were really up there, maybe even 480 for a CEC initially. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But you just hang in there, Joseph, and like so many other people, it's just a matter of just waiting and seeing. Lots of
Well,
patience.
and possibly learning French. So do take a look at my article as well on the blog because I was writing this kind of with the view of people who are waiting in Canada, who are looking to get that CEC draw and hoping for that ITA. And if your Express Entry CRS score is pretty low relatively, then maybe there are some things that you can do to take a look at, is there any other language points that you might be able to get? Do you have any French language skills at all? And you can write the TCF or the TEF exam. Is that a possibility to try to bump up the score a little bit?
And this is the one that Alicia is referring to. And we're going to do a special live on this topic. And we'll go through this in a little bit more depth. But this, you guys need to look at this. You need to go back to Holthe Immigration Law. It's just holthelaw.com. And then go to resources and click on blog. And you can pull this up. But you'll see this is an extremely comprehensive blog that covers, it's full of tons of information and suggestions and strategies. And you can see here, if I'm scrolling, the website doesn't even keep up hardly because it's so comprehensive. Tons of links and just a wealth of knowledge that Alicia's taken a long time to put together. And this here is something that you guys just absolutely do not want to miss. So watch, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that little notification bell to get notified when the live streams are happening. But this is one you definitely don't want to miss out on. All right. Pado up in Tofield. I wonder, Pado, if it's as cold there. Man, it's been so cold here the last few days. Like we're minus 21 right now, but it sure feels colder. What's the temperature up in Calgary?
I think it's at least minus 25. And then with wind chill, it's been hovering like minus 35, minus 40 some days.
Yeah, it's so cold.
Celsius,
So
guys, Celsius.
Celsius, exactly. Ahmed, good to see you. And so Johnson's tuning in from Nigeria. Awesome. Okay, Raj has a PNP related question here. Let's pull this up here. He says, PNP Outland applicant and AOR is November 2021. So just got the acknowledgement of receipt. Okay, I have done with CanSino vaccine, but okay. So we've got some vaccine questions here. Vaccine is not approved by Canada. Will this impact on the processing of application or in any way? So we've seen some disturbing things coming out. Alicia, if you want to tackle this one.
Yeah, so, okay, the orders in council are the current version of the order in council right now that's put out federally is going to be changing the rules on vaccination as of January 15th. So this is basically everybody's going to have to be double vaxxed with a vaccine that Canada recognizes. So I don't know, Mark, if you can
Mhm.
find that link to what the current COVID program delivery on travel restrictions are in the background here. But it is important that you are double vaccinated or vaccinated with a vaccine that Canada recognizes. There are certain exemptions, so only specific categories of people will still be allowed in after January 15th if you've not been vaccinated with vaccines that Canada recognizes. So let's see if we can pull that
Yeah, I'm
up.
just looking to try to find the right one here.
Yeah, there's a number of different ways to drill down on that website.
Okay, here
So
we
I
go.
know what you mean.
So here we go. So I just COVID-19 vaccinated travelers entering Canada. And then if you scroll down here, check if you qualify. There is the accepted vaccines right here.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I know that they have expanded the list of vaccines that they will accept because this list has been shorter in the past. So they're trying to make it more inclusive, but it is still going to be a problem. So I think that if you do have a COPR, I think what that is one of the exemptions is that you are able to land if you are partially vaccinated or vaccinated with a vaccine that Canada doesn't recognize if you are a COPR holder. Um, but we'll have to try to
Mhm.
find what happens after January 15th.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I think we'll be searching for a while to do that, but that's a good topic for us to address, maybe in a future live stream as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's interesting too, and I'll just flip back here to us. It's interesting, Raj, because one of the things that we have heard anecdotally is that panel physicians have received some instruction, like the medical doctors doing the immigration medicals, have received some instructions from someone within the government, because we're seeing this, transmitting across the network, that they're not to do immigration medicals for people that are not fully vaxxed. And this is a disturbing trend as far as I'm concerned, because there's no mention of medical exemptions or things like that, or coming from a country that simply doesn't have the vaccines available. And so we're in the process with the Canadian Bar Association of putting together a working group on this issue, and I know we've reached out to immigration, and we should hear back from them in our next upcoming monthly call on this issue, but it's a real one.
Yeah. So yeah, there are adjustments coming to what Canada is and is not going to accept in terms of vaccines as of January 15th, 2022.
All right. So here is Krishna says, I applied on the tier to PR under healthcare, June. No updates. Not surprising. We are doing overtime all the time. Yeah, because everyone who worked in here has gotten COVID positive. How we are struggling with work. Yeah, I hear you, Krishna. Like you are the exact reason why the TR to PR pathway was created. To provide a pathway to permanent residence for people who are putting their life on the line, who are working in various capacities within the healthcare industry. And so we applaud you, Krishna, and hang in there. And when it comes to processing times, yes, things are slow. I had a consult immediately before this live Q&A where the individual had submitted under the international graduate stream on day one. So this was still on day one of when the program opened. And so into June filing, it's not surprising that you haven't received any updates yet. That's pretty common. Okay, Riri says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Okay, Mohammed says, claiming points for 1 year of work experience only. Is it fine as long as I have good CRS score to get an ITA? Am I good to go with 1 year of work experience?
So this is always a trick, right? There's always a difference between disclosing your personal history and your work history versus claiming points for certain work experience. So yeah, you decide what your primary knock is going to be. What you're going to choose is your primary national occupation classification code. And you have to prove that you have at least 1 year, 1,560 hours. It's got to be full time. Um, I'm not sure if you're doing an in Canada or an outside Canada,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah. So depending on CEC or FSW, you may have a continuous requirement on that, of course. And depending on what sort of category you're looking at, it has to be usually within the last 10 years. So if you can do all that and you've got the pay stubs and you've got all the employer letters and you're absolutely sure there's no gaps in your employment, then maybe you can just rely on that 1 year and that's the one that you claim points for and you've got the letter from your employer and all the pay stubs to back it up. But make sure, because if you are missing anything and that's all you're relying on, it's pretty easy for an officer to poke a hole in that and then give a refusal.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, as far as the 1 year, I'll also add for CEC, it may be enough. For FSW, it will never be enough. So how competitive it is, I have to assume, Mohammed, that that's your world. You're talking about CEC. Remember, guys, when it comes to express entry, this is our area. This is our field. This is the thing that we love to work with our clients most. And for those of you, we don't have. I think when I see an open draw, then we'll probably do another express entry. But you can book a consult, you can connect with us. And we love doing collaborative reviews where we help to make sure that everything is 100% correct. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up. Alicia she's quicker and more efficient than I am. So let's see what we have here. Let's slide over.
This is the
Okay,
one that I was looking for,
so
Mark.
here's the
So
backgrounder.
yeah, and they've actually modified that again since November, but this is the one that I was looking for that they gave the backgrounder on.
Mhm.
And so they did change their policy as of November 30th. So most people have to be double vaccinated. They did have this 72-hour crossing, and then they got rid of this.
Oh,
So we can scroll
tell me
past
about that.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell us about that if you want, Mark.
Yeah, no. The reality is just because I'm Canadian doesn't mean I'm exempt from paying unbelievable amounts of dollars for tests so that I can return home and do live Q&As with you. Otherwise, if I hadn't forked over $450 US for myself, my wife, and daughter, because we took our son down to Idaho to go to school, if I hadn't done that, I would still be waiting in the US probably till tomorrow or Saturday, waiting for the results of a a PCR test, a COVID test. So yeah, unfortunately they dropped that off, which, anyways, stupid
Yeah.
Omicron.
So yeah, so this no longer applies. The 72-hour exemption doesn't apply
Mhm.
anymore. But the bottom part does. So if you keep looking down, they have expanded the list of vaccines that are eligible or recognized by Canada.
Yep.
And then they say entry requirements. So as of January 15th, certain groups of travelers who are currently exempt will only be allowed entry to Canada if they're fully vaccinated. And so this is in general now, this is the new rule. So everybody coming to reunite with family, unless they're under the age of 18, has to be fully vaxxed. International students who are over the age of 18 have to be fully vaxxed. It does say unvaccinated, sorry, if you scroll back up there,
Yep.
unvaccinated students under the age of 18, they can still be allowed entry.
Mhm.
Um, Professional athletes, support staff, individuals with valid work permits, including temporary workers outside of ag and food processing, still have to be fully
Yep.
vaxxed, and most essential service providers also have to be fully vaxxed.
Yep.
So there are very few exemptions to this. There's a limited period right now, so basically until January 14th,
Yep.
during which individuals in specified exempt groups can continue to enter the country if partially vaxxed or unvaxxed, as well as taking connecting flights. So the other issue is that if you are in Canada and you don't get your second vaccine, you actually are not able to take public transportation, a plane or a train, to depart Canada unless you do so by February 28th. So this is important for people to realize that you might get stuck in Canada unless you can get your second vaccine. So there's a window of time within which people who have a single vax or no vax can leave. And then here are the exemptions that I was looking for. So on January 15th, unvaccinated or partially vaccinated travelers are only allowed in under one of these exceptions. So certain agricultural and food processing workers, foreign marine crew, people who are entering on humanitarian and compassionate grounds, new permanent residents. So I assume that that means people who've been granted COPRs, newly resettled refugees, children under the age of 18 exempt from travel restrictions, and then national interest exemptions, which you would need a national interest exemption letter for.
Letter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other people who are allowed in Canada, if they're unvaccinated, are kids who are unvaccinated under the age of 12, traveling with fully vaccinated adults. But then they have to they have to do the public health measures and make sure that they're not in high risk situations in crowded public places.
There we go. Well, this is like a super answer to to a very specific question. So excellent. All right, let's jump over here to Rabia. Hello, if I let IRCC know via web form that I have to start my master's next week, is there any chance they may process my TR to PR application faster? Don't know if my study permit will arrive on time.
Yeah. I it's going to be hard. I mean, those study permit processing times are very long right
Yeah.
now. And you can try to put a web form in
Yeah.
and say, look, the master's program is starting next week. You've got international tuition fees. You want to make sure that you keep your spot. But you're not allowed to start those studies unless you have that study permit because you don't want to be engaging in unauthorized study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll probably vote Robbie and myself on a strong no, given how completely unresponsive IRCC has been to all of us, including immigration lawyers. And so, I wish there was a way that, you could actually reach an officer who had the ability to do something about your situation. But with so many people and the ease of relying on the pandemic to the lockdowns, which we're starting to see again with immigration, it's easy for them to justify, well, sorry, we can't control this. It's out of our hands. And I think it's really unlikely that they would expedite a TR to PR application so that you could go to school. I think it's unlikely, but like Alicia said, it's miracles can happen too. And, anything can happen, but, at this stage, I wouldn't hold my breath too much on that one, Rabia. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Boris says, could moving to Quebec after getting the PR cause problems to down the road, essentially, to getting citizenship?
Well, one of the program requirements for the TR to PR is that you're not living in Quebec, right? And so it's all going to depend on the timing of this. So at the time that your application is decided, you can't be living in Quebec. So it's unclear, when you're thinking that you might move to Quebec. But if you have your PR granted, you've finished your TR to PR and you've lived in whatever province you were living in for some period of time, and then later on you decide to move to Quebec, well, that shouldn't be an issue. But if you've moved there in the meantime and you haven't had your TR to PR finalized yet, that for sure would be a problem.
All right. Next is Tanya. She says, hey, Mark and Alicia, you coming live gives hope in case of my plans to move to Canada. Well, that's great. We are the spreaders of hope and good news and, best wishes for the best 2022 ever. Well, wait a minute. Your best year ever in 2022. Okay, Sajat, hello. Okay, Sajat says, can we see what applications they are working on in case of the time they received it? It's been 8 months for a CC Inland and no news. Sajad, not surprising, my friend. A CEC in Canada, 8 months. Yeah, there were a period of time where they were kind of pushing through and it seemed like they were getting caught up. And then the Afghan crisis hit. And then all of that went out the window, including processing times for CEC. So, 8 months is definitely well within that range, my friend. Okay. This is Sapan says, I got my ECopper under TR to PR in November. First photo for my PR card was rejected, and I uploaded a new photo on December 3rd, but I didn't get any response yet. ECopper expiry in May. What should I do?
Oh man, that portal, the landing portal, right?
What a gong show.
Well, I mean, you can follow up with them, I guess probably via web form, but I don't think it's unusually long for them not to respond for a month from some anecdotes I've been hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember too, Sapan, like your ECopper is a Coper. Like you're waiting for the photo for the purposes of your PR card. You are a permanent resident. Your ECopper is not expiring in 6 months such that, and I'm not sure where you got the 6-month date from, but that ECopper is completed, and they wouldn't have sent you the request to send in the photo. I don't believe, Alicia, maybe you can correct me on this. If is the photo that they're requesting, maybe this is what Sapan is talking about. Maybe this is the initial photo for the purposes of issuing. Like maybe I'm a little confused what the reference to ECopper, because if you received the actual ECopper, that is your confirmation of permanent residence upon. If you're just received the email requesting you to upload your information to then get that back, that's a different story. And yes, there's timelines, but if you're in the process, they've rejected it once, they're not going to refuse your application if you're, if you've already submitted it in there, right? You've uploaded the new photo.
So the difference is that the electronic confirmation of permanent residence, it's a big permanent resident landing document, and it should be signed off by an officer or electronically signed off by an officer if it's issued electronically. Once you have that document and it's issued to you and you have a date of landing on there, then you're a permanent resident. What's been happening is they also were trying to facilitate permanent resident card issuance, but for that you usually need your photos to be uploaded. And so maybe it's that you're stuck at the second stage with getting that permanent resident card. But if you actually have a signed electronic confirmation of permanent residence landing document, then you should already be a permanent resident of Canada. If you didn't actually get that document signed, then maybe there is something else going on.
Yeah. And it looks like Sapan, from what your question here is, I've reread it like 3 times. It looks like you are a permanent resident. So if this first photo was for your PR card, and then that was rejected and you now submitted a new one, like this is, you're a permanent resident, based on what you've described here. So it's just a matter of patience. And Alicia's right. We've heard so many stories of individuals that have been, waiting months and months to get it sorted out. Okay. Amin says, do you think there will be any FSW draw this year? If it's the case, is there any chance of a 482 CRS to cut through? What do you think, Alicia?
Well, I'm guessing they will probably have to have at least one FSW or no program specified draw for this year in order to meet our immigration target levels, unless they create some brand new stream under Express Entry, which is possible because that's part of what they talked about in the mandate letters to the minister. So it's possible that they might try to facilitate new categories of Express Entry for purely in Canada applicants. But yeah, that 468 was the last no program specified draw. Keep in mind this is 2020, December 23rd. So that was, a long time ago now. Probably we're looking at a pretty high CRS. The clients that I've been speaking with that have their Express Entry profiles who are Outlanders tend to have PhDs or masters and perfect language scores.
Yeah. And this was last updated 2 days ago, at least who was in the pool. So this is, yesterday when I was going through this, Alicia, in my live Q&A, this wasn't, it was back in December. So now this is the most current, or at least the most disclosed or published data. You can see that, when the draw happened, there were 406 people. And this is what makes it so surprising to me, Alicia. So 406 people were over 600. Okay. And it is possible with French and, other, job offers to stretch into this zone, but 601, I'm trying to think, I guess there are enough points to potentially stretch into 601 to reach at least 600 points without a nomination certificate, because there were 406, but yet 392 invitations were extended. So there's some really smart, brainy people, or people that have family in Canada and Canadian work experience and a bunch of other stuff that have allowed them to get pushed up into here. Just a few, but generally speaking, if you look at this, over 500, we have almost 5,000. So that alone is probably going to be enough, if they're doing rounds of invitations at the same level, to draw all those out. Then if we jump down here, you can see 491, there's still 2,600. And then this is the big one. You can see 480 is 6,000. Over 470, we almost have 15,000. So you guys can do the math, and you can see it's going to be a while before it would get down to, down to a level of in the low 40s. But for 482, maybe after, if you look at those statistics, maybe 3 draws, maybe 4 draws, it could get down to, that's pretty sad when you think about that. It could get down to 482, but that's probably the reality, because it's just been so long since we've had that no program specified draw. Okay, let's jump to our next question here. Okay, this is Hosea. He says, "Hello, Mrs. Alicia. I've got LOA from Seneca for fall 2022. We'll book consultation once I sort out my finances, all the way from Namibia." Have you had a previous consult with
No,
Hosea?
I will watch for one though.
Okay. And for those of you who are wondering, this is amazing. Alicia is so smart. How do I book a consult with her? All you have to do is go to our website, and the link is in the description below too. Click on Speak to a Lawyer, and then all you have to do right off the bat, see, there we go. Alicia's right there, and you can click on here to book a consult. Easy peasy. All right. Let's see. We'll watch out for you, Hosea. Okay. Kamal, shout out to you. Looks like you've got a nice vehicle there you like. Zakaria says, "Hey Mark, is IELTS General generally acceptable for, is IELTS General acceptable for studies in Canada?"
And this is going to depend upon your designated learning institution. And so I was talking to study permit applicants recently, and they said a lot of the schools are requiring the IELTS academic. So it's going to depend upon your university or college. Some of them actually are allowing Duolingo as well. But IELTS General is what you need for immigration for the express entry profile. But a lot of the schools want to see the academic or maybe the Duolingo. So just check with that individual school that you're looking at. Always make sure to talk to the school directly, because they are always going to have, any reputable school is going to have some sort of liaison officer or student outreach person who deals with international students, who will be able to help you for free. They're not going to charge you anything directly through the school. So just make sure that you reach out to them to really ask them what their program requirements are for applications.
Yep. All right, next question. This is Tanya. "Hey Mark and Alicia, can January 2021 AOR FSW Indy expect some good news till April?" That's a tough one. So once again, we've had discussions with people that are in the, September 2020 range and December 2020 range. I know they're working hard. We know that they've applied some money to it. Whether or not they will get through them that quickly, January's, see, we're a year now. It's entirely possible. It is. And I will be a glass half full kind of person. And I think with the amount of resources that they're putting to, and the prioritization that they've given to processing, I think there's a chance April. I think there's a chance somewhere up until April. We shall see. Okay. Okay. So this is Alva, and I was trying to go through, you can see where it says good vibes there. So that's an emoji and it's being translated. I love that though. So we'll assume it's like a thumbs up or something. So Lima, Peru, "Hope you both enjoy the holidays amid the pandemic." Yes. Yes, indeed. We are all hunkered down in our homes. I don't know if you've got any big mountain ranges you're climbing on your snowshoes, Alicia, but I'm happy to stay right in the house right now. while this weather is so bone chilling cold.
I really do want to get out to the mountains. It's hard because the roads have been so bad. We had 2 days where kind of a Chinook came in. I don't know if you guys know about Chinooks, but it's this amazing thing where the warm wind comes across the mountains from British Columbia, usually in the Pacific, and our temperature goes from -25 to maybe like -7 or something like that. And so we had that happen the other weekend, but the winds were gusting over 100 kilometers per hour. And so
Yeah.
the highways had whiteout conditions and snow drifting. And so we decided not to try to take the risk. And yeah, I'm going to have to wait for a little bit of a better weather day.
Yeah. On Saturday, we were driving out to Glenwood, where my brother lives, which is a small little town towards the Rocky Mountains. And the wind was blowing so hard, it caught the cover on the back of my truck and pulled it away, and it whipped and just broke to pieces.
Oh
And
no.
that's what we were going to take down with my son and all of his stuff in the back of the truck. And the wind was so strong that it just literally destroyed it. So I ended up having to just pull it off, rip it off. And so, yeah, the wind has just been crazy, crazy. And, it's not blowing now, but we've got nice snow that's drifting down, and I've got a sidewalk that's waiting for me to shovel again. So it was on the agenda yesterday, but Igor and I were actually preparing Alicia, and the cart is now open. I forgot to tell people for the spousal sponsorship course. So
Oh
those of
wow.
you who have, who are thinking about coming, that have come to Canada, who are watching and are now, you listed your spouse as non-accompanying. I don't think it's in the description below here, but you can now go to the site right here and see our courses and the spousal sponsorship. You can now click on and access the registration for the course. So come check it out, and it's going to be launching on January the 10th. I'm really looking forward to this. This is the first real, well, the TR to PR obviously was a pretty big deal, but this is the first course that really is a play on the express entry course. And it's gonna, yeah, this first one is just gonna be awesome. So I'm really excited about it. So you guys have to check that out. Okay, let's see who is next on our list here. I've got a bunch of people. And if we skip through you, please forgive us, because there are a lot of questions coming through. We're up to 132 people watching live right now, Alicia. So it's a good day. Troy, thanks to you. He says, see you again. Happy New Year. Nice to see you again. Happy New Year. And Johnson says, thank you there. Okay. Yash says, waiting for all program draws to open back up. Currently in Canada as a student. Are there any benefits to making an FSW application from within Canada?
I mean, you could. I assume that you don't have, of course, the work permit or the work status or 1 year of Canadian work experience because you're still a student. So you could do an FSW express entry profile application if you have a high enough score. But keep in mind that if you're here as a temporary resident, if you're here as a student and you have to extend your status, then you always have an obligation to prove that you have a temporary intent. And so as soon as you file that express entry application, you're just going to have to explain how you have a dual intent. You have your intent to remain as a student, or maybe you want to transition to a postgrad work permit. Hopefully you're eligible for that. When you do that postgrad work permit eligibility, or application, they're going to look and see that you have that express entry profile sitting there. And so you'll just have to do a little bit more in terms of proving that temporary intent because you have a permanent resident profile sitting there, as well as probably hoping to extend your temporary resident status in the meantime.
All right, this one's right square in your wheelhouse, Alicia. So Vishal says, I've been waiting for CEC for a long time. My postgrad work permit expires, and I think what he means is a CEC, a draw, a round of invitations, an ITA. My postgrad work permit expires February 18th. However, I have a valid TRV until 2025. Can I still stay in Canada, at least as a tourist, post my postgrad expiry without exiting? So this right here, guys, if we flip back here, go to resources on our page, blog, and the very first one that pops up, how long can I stay in Canada after my work permit expires? This right here. Alicia, do you want to kind of address that
Yeah.
question?
If if you scroll down, Mark, there's a section
Mm-hmm.
that talks about your authorized period of stay under the regulations. And so if, these are kind of what kind of work permit do you have? Is it employer specific? But you're going to want to figure out, yeah, your authorized period of stay. And so you have to leave Canada by the end of your authorized period of stay, which is a defined time under the Immigration Refugee Protection Regulations. So generally, your period of stay ends whenever your permit expires, so your work or study permit. So even though you have a prior visitor, like a long-term visitor TRV, if you had a post-grad work permit that's going to be expiring, you will have to extend or change conditions before that permit expires in order to continue to stay in Canada. So this is where it's now going to be your obligation to maintain status, and you're going to have to figure out, well, what kind of status am I going to be transitioning to? So
Excellent.
generally, you've got to submit a new application to extend or change conditions. If not, then you fall out of status and then you're into the restoration period. And you've got 90 days within which to restore your status if you've fallen out of status.
Yeah. And when it comes to this stuff, you guys, this is pretty technical. And once again, I highly recommend that you connect back, click on the link in the description, and book a consult when you're in this situation. Because there's a lot of factors at play. And there's a reason that Alicia's blog post was like 50 pages long. It's because there are so many different variables at play. And you have to, like, this is your future, right? And you can't afford a misstep along the path because it can have long-term ramifications for your ability to apply if you do get an ITA. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, Vishal, and yeah, please reach out and connect. Okay, Aisha here's got a little bit of a follow-up. Actually, Mark and Alicia, what's happening with the French stream under the IG stream? Applied on the 9th of October. I know I have a long wait, but wondering until 1. Well, Aisha, you're in the queue like everybody else with the TR to PR pathway. And whether you are, if you obviously got in through the international grad stream, I had a consult today with someone who filed under that program the very first day with the regular stream. So yeah, you're in for a longer wait for sure, but you're in, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And generally on the TR to PR, they've been processing first in, right? Whoever their application was first submitted on which day, unless there's some sort of criminality or medical issues.
Mm-hmm. All right. Pato says, hey, sir. Hi, Sir Mark. I applied for a spousal open work permit. It's almost 14 months. Can you imagine that,
Oh,
Alicia?
wow.
14 months. Any news when they start processing any backlog applications? We haven't heard anything, Pato. We know that at least with the other backed up applications, the FSW ones, that we're starting to see significant movement. They're starting to process. They're starting to dig into those now. People are getting their medical requests and their police certificate updated requests and passport requests. And so I have to assume that as they work through those, that they're going to be, getting to this. But yeah, that's just an unbelievable long period of time. But there's a lot of people that are in this type of backlog, depending upon the countries that they were coming from.
Yeah, I'd be interested in terms of which kind of application was filed, right? I don't know if it's a spousal sponsorship or maybe it's under a different category where they're
I'm
looking
wondering
for
if
that
it's a
spousal
foreign,
open work
like if
permit.
Pato is a foreign worker in Canada,
Oh, maybe.
and then
Yeah.
applying for the open work permit for spouse to join. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is. And then you'll remember, Alicia, how they basically just didn't process any. They just stopped
Yeah.
unless you were an essential, deemed to be essential.
Yeah.
Then they just didn't process.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Kamal says, if the CC draw came today, do you think the draw will be lower? Lower than what? So I think we've covered this one in quite a bit of detail. Okay, let's see. We'll jump down here just a little bit. Okay, here we go. Okay, so Omar says, good afternoon. I'm from Montreal. My wife and son got approved July 2018. She added myself with her application. We submitted all information and papers as per Mississauga requirements. This is a big one here. Our medical is also done. Received last email from Mississauga, August 2020, that her file was forwarded to Montreal Humanitarian Migration Office in Montreal for further assessment. Okay. Till today, we do not receive PR or any letter from Montreal office. Please suggest me what should we do. This is book a consult. And in reality, if it's Montreal based, we would probably refer you to one of our colleagues in Montreal. Alicia, do you have anything to add? And I'm assuming that Omar probably had some assistance from a consultant or someone along the way. But any thoughts on that, Alicia?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which category of application, if you were trying to apply under Express Entry or if you did something under a specific Quebec provincial nominee program, I don't know. But yeah, if you're dealing specifically with Quebec, we would refer you to an immigration lawyer in Quebec who is going to do that program specific. If it was a federal program, then for sure we could give you some assistance with that. But we would need to know more particulars about what's going on for your situation.
Yep. Okay, back with Zacharias says his CRS score is 468. He's an accountant or an auditor, knock 1111. Any chance for OINP invitation? Well, the range for the OINP is kind of in that range, the 460s. It'll be interesting to see, Alicia, once they start doing no program specified draws again, if that will increase commensurate with the increase in the general ITA levels. But I'll be honest, Zakaria, I haven't seen, aside from just the pure human capital, your scores in the right range, the specific program draws or specific occupation draws, like the IT draw for the OINP. Obviously accountants, I've never seen anything. I don't recall seeing an accountant on any of those lists. So as far as knock codes, I haven't seen them as being an occupation in demand for Ontario. But if it reverted back to just the pure human capital draws, which we haven't seen too many of those, I think it would be pretty tight. It would be pretty tough at 468. Okay, let's see here. Johnson says, yes, I'm an outlander. You guys created that term, not me. I just try to speak your language. So, okay. Caitlin has this question. My wife has worked on a river cruise ship in Europe. She was passing through multiple countries each day. Do we have to add each country she was passing through in the travel history?
So in cases like this, I normally have the client provide a letter of explanation. And you're going to say which country you left from on that cruise and which country you're going to, and which countries you were actually docking or spending any time in. And you're going to provide a letter of explanation and as much detail as you can on your travel history to document that. Usually, same thing for airports. If you're only staying in the airport and not leaving the airport, or if you're staying on the ship and not leaving the ship, then you're not technically spending any time in that country. But you should describe everything and for sure list the countries where you've docked and had any time on ground. Usually in terms of what immigration's wanting to see here is they want to make sure you're not misrepresenting, and they want to make sure that they're doing any medical or criminality follow-up that needs to be done.
All right. Next question is from Janik. Does the standard 6 months processing time start after the completeness check? And what if it was already approved in GCMS and the application is close to 6 months?
So they used to have a standard 6-month processing target. And then the pandemic happened, and everything is now in a world of backlogs and changes to their processing standards. So I don't know, Mark. I don't know if 6 months is even still a thing.
Yeah. I don't think at this stage, given the fact we know we've already had a question from someone who was at 8 months or 9 months with a CEC, Like there are some that do, for whatever reason, go through a little bit quicker, but we saw all of that slow down to a large extent with the Afghan crisis, then swallowing up a ton of resources. So it's not unusual, so common. And yes, 6 months after the completeness check, basically when you file with the express entry. And when it says it's already approved in GCMS, well, yes, it says that you've passed all of the eligibility stuff, but they're probably still waiting to do their background checks or things like that as well. But yeah, don't count on 6 months. Definitely don't. Okay, Jay Shri says closed work permit applied from India in March 21. No, says background checks in process. Now my husband is in Canada on a visitor visa and phone updated in file. How soon can we expect approval? Good luck with that one. So basically the application was submitted originally through India. They've now come on a visitor visa, and the closed and LMIA based work permit, I'm assuming, is what's what's in the process, what's in the queue. It's hard to say because you've got two different offices, and now you're saying I'm in Canada. I don't know if you've updated the address for your husband or what that situation is, but usually I don't know what the rules are with being able to land from within Canada now. I don't think it applies in this situation. I think it would require a flagpole probably once the approval comes through. But the ultimate question, how long can we expect an approval? That's, the processing times are going to be listed. You guys have seen, we've pulled these up. Whoops, IRCC processing times right there. And if it's India, this is where we go. We go here just like you guys do. There's not a lot more that we can do. We got worker, and then it's work permit from outside Canada, applying from, go down here to India, and then boom, you can see 31 weeks is what they've listed for processing times. And, they still have this statement right at the front that due to the impact of COVID, we can't give accurate processing times for most applications. So this is kind of the best that we can rely upon in the circumstances. And this was last updated about 2 days ago. So that's pretty much where we're at. I don't know, Alicia, if you have anything else to add to that one.
No, and because of the pandemic, they had sometimes changed rules to allow people who normally would have had to have flagpoled to apply online for a change in their status. But most of those have gone away now, and people still have to go through the regular rules of, under the regulations. If you're applying from outside Canada, you actually have to have your document issued and then come in and get it granted at the port of entry, which is the normal process.
Yep. Okay, Ola Lua says, what happens if postgrad work permit expires while you're in the express entry pool under CEC? This is another one that fits squarely within, and I'm assuming your profile is what's in there, right? Because obviously if you have filed your EAPR, then you have the bridging open work permit option that's available.
Yeah, and I talk about the bridging open work permit as well in the article. So if you are in Canada and you decide to stay in Canada, you have an obligation to maintain your valid status. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're illegally staying in Canada after the expiry of your documents if you have no way to restore your status. So be really careful, make sure that you're maintaining your status and you're transitioning to another valid category. So I talk about that in the article. If you've got specific questions, I'm happy to talk to you in a consultation. So, even though you have your CEC application profile sitting there for express entry, that doesn't give you temporary status. So make sure that you maintain your temporary status.
All right. Okay, I'm trying to select. If I've answered one from you, that's why I'm skipping the second question so we can try to get to as many. We're just about timed out here, and I believe I have a consult right after this is done. So we'll do one more. Yes, we'll do one more question here, and then we will wrap up for today. Remember, the Q&As right now are Wednesday mornings at 10 and Thursdays at 11. And if you didn't get your question answered today, remember that we are always available for consultations. And one of the 4 lawyers within our firm would be happy to dive in deeper, because we can really only cover, kind of a 10,000 foot level with these questions. Okay. Let's see here what we have. Okay. So Fatima says, is a student eligible to apply for a PGDM in Canada after completing masters from India? If yes, would this be a problem in visa acceptance? Postgraduate diploma, degree. I'm not sure what DM stands for. Do you know?
I don't know either. I'm assuming that it's a master's program in Canada as well, but I'm not sure. And if it is, if you're looking at applying for another master's program in Canada after having completed a master's program in India, then occasionally there are problems with that, because immigration is going to say, well, wait a minute, if you've already done this level of education and you have completed it, then why are you doing the same thing in Canada? You'd have to let us know if the PGDM is materially different or an extension of your education. So it's something in addition or very different from what you've done already. Because if it's a situation where the immigration officer is saying, well, you've already done a master's and you're doing something equivalent or even less in Canada, then for sure that would raise alarm bells for them.
All right. And we'll finish off with this last one from Sarab. He says, what is the process of attaching the document sent via web form in a study permit application applied from India, student direct stream? So what is the process of attaching the document? I think I can probably jump on this one. When you're filling in your web form, Sarab, you should be able to, it says, do you have documents to attach? And at that stage, you should be able to click on it, and then it should allow you to be able to then add your documents. Alicia, any additional thoughts or comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, the general web form, sometimes people miss it because you have the general web form from IRCC. This is what it looks like. And then you've got to fill in all the details of your inquiry. And then only after you agree and then click next does it have the opportunity to upload your document. And so make sure after you click next, it says, do you want to upload documents? And then you say yes, and you select your source, and just make sure that the document that you're uploading is less than 4 megabytes in size. Otherwise, you'll have to reduce it or somehow do a multiple web form inquiries.
Yes. And the interesting thing, Alicia, with the web form is that they've actually reduced it down to 3 megabytes, and you can upload 2 separate documents that combined total 3 megabytes. But I think each of them individually is, I think, 2 megabyte maximum. It's really weird. And so you guys will have to play around with it and see. But yeah. Okay, Sarab, know my question. When it is attached by IRCC, once the applicant, okay. So he's asking, okay, I'm glad I saw that. He's asking, okay, when I send it, when are they going to attach it to my file? So yeah, so basically, good question, my friend. And that's not something that we can answer. Ultimately, you want to make darn sure that you've kept proof that you've submitted it, the time you did, take a screenshot, a web, print off the web page, whatever it is, as your proof that you've submitted it. And as long as you've done it, then that's your protection. But yeah, as far as having a baseline on how long it's taking to add things in, sometimes it can take a month or longer to do that. All right. Okay, guys, thank you so much for connecting in. And I know there's lots of questions that we just didn't get to. And, this is an hour long. We do our very, very best. And it's hard to find, a good, equitable way of catching everybody. But for Alicia and I, this is the time that we try to give back. And you'll see that we don't offer free consultations. We charge for those. And why? Because we do these live Q&As, and we do our best to try to spread to the world and amplify our answers so that as many people as possible can benefit. So thank you for connecting in. We're going to wrap it up now. I'm going to jump over to my other call, but thank you so much, Alicia, for joining me, and we'll see everyone back next week. Same time, same place. Take care, everyone.